The sun was just beginning to rise over the sleepy cul-de-sac of Willow Bend when it all began. A soft amber glow bathed the rooftops, the dew still clinging to blades of grass. A young black girl, no older than 13, stood quietly on the sidewalk near Rosewood Middle School, her backpack slung loosely over one shoulder. Her name was Kiara Bennett. She was soft-spoken, always respectful, raised by a father who believed in dignity above all else. Speak with grace, even when the world doesn't, he always told her. And she did until the world cornered her. That morning, Kiara had stayed behind after school to help her language arts teacher sort and alphabetize the classroom library. She loved doing things like that, helping. Her father always said, "Service is strength." Sweetheart. She took pride in that. When the last box of books had been placed on the shelf and the teacher thanked her with a grateful smile, Kiara stepped out into the quiet afternoon. The sun starting to drift toward the horizon. She walked to the main sidewalk along Jefferson Avenue, the designated pickup point where her father always met her after school. She stood there patiently, humming softly, glancing down the road now and then. Her phone battery had died earlier in the day, so she couldn't text him. But she wasn't worried. He was never late without reason. Then came the slow roll of the patrol cruiser. At first, she didn't think much of it. The car drove past, then stopped a few yards ahead. It reversed, crunching softly over the asphalt, and came to a halt beside her. The window rolled down, and the officer inside, a stocky man with thinning hair and mirrored sunglasses, looked at her like she didn't belong. "Hey, what are you doing here? Where are your parents?" His voice wasn't angry yet, but there was something in it, something dismissive. Kiara turned and answered politely, "I'm waiting for my dad. He's coming to pick me up. He works with the Special Forces. He's just running a little late." The officer scoffed. "Special Forces? Huh, that's a new one," he muttered, opening the door and stepping out. "And I'm the King of England. I'm not lying." "Sir," Kiara said, her voice steady, though she clutched her backpack a little tighter. He looked up and down the empty street. "No ID? No adult? Sounds suspicious to me. Let's go," he said, reaching out toward her shoulder. "We'll sort this out at the station." Kiara didn't resist. She didn't raise her voice. Her father had always said, "Never meet hostility with fire. Stand your ground with calm." So that's what she did. "Please, sir, my dad really is coming. He's not far." Yeah. The officer sneered. "You kids think you're clever, lying about parents being in the military just to get out of trouble." She blinked, unsure what trouble he was referring to. She hadn't done anything wrong. But the man wasn't listening. Not to her tone, not to her facts, not to her fear. People started to notice. A few parents and lingering students turned their heads. One mother pulled out her phone and began recording. Kiara saw another student whisper to his father. Her voice trembled now, not from panic, but from disbelief. "I didn't do anything wrong," she said again. The officer raised his voice for the crowd. "You have no identification, no adult present, and now you're making up stories. That's obstruction." He reached again for her backpack, this time firmer, and that's when the SUV pulled up. It was black, large, with tinted windows and a hum of power. The tires hadn't even stopped fully before the door flung open and a man stepped out. Tall, muscular, dressed in full operational military uniform. His combat boots thudded against the pavement like thunder. His vest bore insignia. His chest carried patches of valor. And his eyes scanned the scene like he had just walked into enemy territory. "Excuse me, officer," he said, his voice calm, but carrying authority that could silence a crowd. "That's my daughter you're touching." The officer stepped back like he'd been caught in the act. "Sir, Tu didn't know. She said something about Special Forces. I thought she was..." "You thought she was what?" the man asked. "Lying? For what reason?" "I will look. She's 13. I thought it was a joke." The man stepped closer. His name tag read Bennett. Master Sergeant Elijah Bennett. His stance was firm. His presence shook the air. So a 13-year-old tells you her father is in the special forces and you laugh in her face. Grab her backpack. And threaten to take her to the station? I didn't know, the officer stammered again. Let me be very clear. Elijah said. His tone as sharp as a blade. You don't get to manhandle my child because you assumed she was lying. You didn't ask for verification. You didn't call it in. You didn't wait. You judged her by her skin, by her age, and you dismissed her words because they didn't fit your narrative. The crowd was dead silent now. Kiera wiped at her eyes. He said I was lying. Dad. She whispered. He didn't believe me. He laughed. Elijah knelt down. One hand on her cheek. You told the truth. That's all that matters. I'm here now. He stood again, eyes locking with the officer. You owe her more than an apology. I'm sorry. The officer muttered. I didn't mean. Intent doesn't erase the damage. Elijah said. It's your bias that did this. Next time, instead of laughing, try listening. The officer nodded, pale and ashamed. He stepped back into his cruiser and drove away without another word. Elijah gently lifted Kiera's backpack over his shoulder, then took her hand in his. They walked together toward their car. Heads turned. Phones lowered. Some applauded softly. Others hung their heads. You're a hero. Sir. Someone called out from the crowd. Elijah didn't turn. His focus was only on Kiera, who looked up at him with soft admiration. Thank you for coming. Daddy. Always. He said. No one messes with my little warrior. And that was that. This wasn't just about a misunderstanding. It was about the harm done by disbelief. The quiet violence of assumptions. Kiera had done nothing wrong. She had told the truth, stood with dignity, and remained calm. But it wasn't until her father arrived in full uniform, adorned with the symbols of national pride, that people believed her. And therein lies the wound. The truth should never depend on the uniform of the man who speaks for you. The value of a voice should not rely on medals or titles. A child's truth, especially one as kind and respectful as Kiera's, should have been enough. But too often, for children like her, it isn't. Let this be a reminder. Judge people not by their appearance, not by your assumptions, but by the content of their words. Listen, believe, and when someone speaks their truth, especially the vulnerable, let that truth stand on its own, because one day, someone will be watching, and they'll remember the moment when the world doubted a child and the father who made sure it never happened again.